As always, I find that these panels are great because we can get different perspectives as well as learning from Ellen in our AI minutes and the chat storm that we do. This is a great way for everyone to connect. I'm excited to have as our panelists today, Makenzie Wells and Ardavan Goldshan. We're going to talk about AI, things that work and things that don't. So what I want to do is have each one of them is going to come up. I'm going to start with Makenzie. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Makenzie, where you are, and then the problem that you're tackling with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Makenzie Wells, she, her pronouns, and I've been in people leadership for customer facing teams for almost 16 years now. Currently the VP of customer operations at Remind and Parent Square. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the details later. But it's a place where students, families, and teachers can talk about the classroom outside of the classroom. And so we are adapting our AI use case right now for content moderation, and that's what I'll talk a little bit more about later. Thanks for letting me be here today.
Right. Well, Makenzie, can you tell us, I'm sorry, Ardavan, you go ahead first. Give us your intro and then we'll go
No,
back to
please.
Makenzie.
Did you want to finish? We can.
Makenzie, you finished your intro?
Yeah. All
Yep.
All
good.
done?
Okay.
Okay.
Over to you, Ardavan.
Uh, I'm Ardavan Goldshan. Thanks for having me on. I'm a little under the weather, so bear with me for now. I started my career in forensic consulting at PricewaterhouseCoopers in San Jose. From there, I went to a series of startups from product management to director of professional services for a consulting firm in Canada. From there, I moved to DC, which is where I reside now. I was head of customer success for aerospace defense startup. From there, I came to the current role I am, head of CX at a security operations startup, leveraging AI, of course. So that's where we're working at now. We're aiming for Series A right now, working with some development partners, working on some initiatives, per AI, and getting some automation set up on that end. So excited to be here. Excited to meet you all. Looking forward to it.
So thank you, Ardavan. All right, Makenzie, tell us about the problem that you're tackling with AI and how you're measuring it, the challenges, and what you've learned that everyone can benefit from learning from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Remind is a communication platform designed for K-12 schools and districts to connect educators with the families and students. And so, given that it is aiming to unify various communication platforms, we end up in a place where parents, teachers, and students are in group conversations as well as direct message conversations with one another. And we're governed by regulations and internal safety standards to moderate this content to ensure its safety and that the platform is as free as possible from hate speech and other things. And so we are using AI for content moderation, specifically around image content right now. And so the problem that we're trying to solve is with 30 million active monthly users, you can imagine the number of text messages and group messages that go out. Inside of that, we have about 13.8 million messages with images during our highest volume time of the year. And so we want to be able to reduce the human based evaluation of those images and leverage AI to evaluate those images in the context and the labels as best as possible. That's kind of the top level there. Do you want me to keep going, Tracey?
Yeah, I think that's a good description of the overall, situation that is a ton of messages and images. So tell us what you're using AI for in terms of, how are you measuring what it's doing? What were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so one of the big challenges is the baseline vision tool that's used. Has a lot of false positives, which means this brown dog gets flagged and this baby with a little bruise on their arm gets flagged as bad through the typical vision tool. And we have a team of moderators who are going through these images day over day. We wanted to use AI to reduce those false positives. So those images are totally fine to be on the platform. It's part of the day-to-day communications. And we want to measure a number of flagged images that go to manual moderation and how many of those are false positives, and then what is the reduction in false positives over the course of our AI implementation. And that also in turn will increase the safety of the platform, which is a little less numerically measurable, but definitely brand measurable overall. So our specific metrics were around reduction in false positives and reduction in human interaction with those images along the way too from the team.
Nice. And so how successful, how long did it take approximately, and how successful has it been?
Yeah, I would say transition from when I took over this team and this initiative to MVP out in the wild, and the team feeling the impact of this has been about a year and a half to really get it fine-tuned. I think the threshold approach and the learning model, one of the findings that we had is that our bulk image upload skewed the model in a particular direction that was opposite of the direction we would have preferred the model to behave in. So yeah, we had to work through that skew a little bit to enhance and improve the overall thresholding. So I'd say a year and a half, and we're seeing a reduction already of about 15% in the first, say, 6 months of that false positives. And we're hoping with some continued tuning in the summer messaging volumes, we can continue to improve that and see that reach up to 40% reduction in false positives.
That would be great to get to that 40%. That's so many images.
Yeah.
Tell
And what it
me,
means for, oh,
go ahead.
sorry. I was going to say what it means for the team is that they are the total amount of work to moderate these images overall really is about one full-time employee for the year inside of just that 3-month period of back to school. And so what we want to do there is utilize those resources in a different way to better serve our customers upstream in the support funnels or in different moderation areas as well. So we've used a deep learning technology to add the computer vision capabilities and the additional labeling segmentations and applied that to our procedure for the reduction in resources.
Nice, nice. What would you say would be some lessons learned that you could share with our community here about what you should do and what you shouldn't do?
Yeah, I think as many of you probably already know, AI implementations will certainly work out of the box, but require some of the time to ramp up to your specific use cases and ensuring the highest value for the implementation of AI that you're seeking. And we definitely learned from that, from both our thresholding percentages and what is the lever to turn, as well as from that bulk import skewing the model in a particular direction. So that bulk testing was our other learning of like it wasn't representative of the actual types of images that came in the correct percentage buckets there, and so it biased our training initially.
Did you have any particular approach you took to unbias the AI?
Yeah, we kind of we worked with Amazon in this case because we said, hey, we're seeing your tool, we're using your deep learning model, we're unable to have it behave the way we expect. Can you help us? So we did have some services rendered from Amazon to help us undo some of that skewing and reset essentially that baseline learning map.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Makenzie. All right, so
Yeah,
there's a good example of where, AI is being able to help reduce a significant workload, and I think you're going to continue to iterate on that. And I know from my experience with AI is that it continues to learn, and the more you can continue to build it, as long as you're keeping an eye on it, the better it can be.
Yeah, our next phase of this is really to add in agentic workers. So again, looking at the humans who do the manual moderation, they could be going through a moderation queue and seeing 7 images of a brown dog in there, and then suddenly here's this very inappropriate image that's, in their brain, on their eyes, and like there is a psychological level to that of doing that as your full-time job. And so we'd like to build in some agentic workflows for things that are obviously bad and should obviously have things taken care of to reduce that psychological load on the team.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Makenzie. Now, Ardavan, for a different perspective, are you ready to give us like a thumbs up, thumbs down on things that you found work and don't work?
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue from the false positives to what we do at Embed. So I can go down 2 kind of different vectors. I mean, the core business model, we have a agentic AI platform. Again, from the segue, that sits at the center of the security operations center, ingests, whether it's your CrowdStrike, whether it's endpoint, whether it's your SIM, all those alerts tries to denoise them, reduce false positives. That's that's the business model. I think what you guys want to hear more about is the implications of AI within the different toolings for customer success, customer support, and all those motions, if I'm correct.
Let's do it. That's right in the audience wheelhouse.
So that's going to be the tough one. So between ZoomInfo, HubSpot, Zendesk, some of the new ones coming up like People AI, feels like there's a new one popping up every day. There's a tendency for all of these platforms to try to square peg round hole AI into any opportunity they have. For me, what it always comes back down to, it's like kind of that garbage in, garbage out. It's how well is your internal record keeping? How well are notes maintained? How consistent is the record keeping between different account execs, different analysts? How much of that is kept, and how much of it can you reliably, inference? I'll give you an example. So HubSpot has this new feature called Breeze, and it's like a little headline, 2 or 3 sentences that pops up on any new deal. What it does is it scrolls all the different meeting notes, all the different tasks, everything that it has that's been uploaded to that either associated client, company, or the actual deal. This ranges from entirely unreliable to, I would say, within the past couple of months, when I look at a Breeze heading, and I know so and so AEs on there, I've been on there myself. This person from leadership is, tasked with keeping the notes. When I look at Breeze, I'm like, that is a very accurate representation of where we're at with that client. If it's someone else, if it's someone, a couple of meetings have been logged, there's no task, there's no historical records, but I know like in Notion, we have like, 5, 6 meetings from last summer with them. When I look at Breeze, I'm like, there's no reliability on this. They don't have the full picture. When I go to Zendesk, it's like they're so hell bent on trying to get you on their AI platform. When I go to HubSpot, they're so quick to try to want to get you in with their heat maps. It's like, well, we don't have that many client contacts. What's the net of correspondence that we've had with them? What are these like? Hey, you should really reach out to this VP of digital transformation. It's like, well, we've had one email exchange with them. How are you coming to that conclusion? For me, it's reliance on the ones that you're putting a lot of time into maintaining, and you can pretty much ignore the ones that are square peg round hole in the whole AI function. I don't know what everyone else's experience with it has been, but that's been mine. The better record keeping have, the more you can rely on it. If you don't, AI is useless. So that's kind of been my experience with it. HubSpot has some really usable ones. ZoomInfo, when they give you their intent targeting, I would say ignore it. I know people that have had like they get an intent list on a Monday, and they're like, well, based on who we've reached out to, who we've had positive correspondence with, they're telling me I should reach out to these 7 companies. No response. So like I would say spend some time with them, reassess your own record keeping, have someone that's not on that account, have someone that's not an AE with that account, a leadership individual that's, isn't tasked with that client. Let them run through the HubSpot deal and see, can you give me a realistic assessment of where we're at with this client? If they can't, how would you expect AI to? Right? So I would say your record keeping is only your AI is only going to be as good as your record keeping. That's been my experience.
Ardavan, have you heard of any new tools coming up that have caught your attention that might be a little more reliable?
So I think you want me to transition to Humu, and I really do because I've heard so many good things about it. It's to give you guys kind of a once over. It's an HR AI tool that came out a few years ago, before like the Chat GPT, before the whole tsunami of AI products that came out. The way it works is you have the option to opt in your email, you have the option to opt in, your inbox, your calendar, as much as you want or as little as you want as an employee. What it does is it takes inventory of everything, and takes inventory of meetings, of notes, even as far as what time you arrive to work. It'll ask, what route did you take to work? Did you drive? Did you commute? If you did drive, which route did you take? It compiles all this information, qualitative, quantitative information about the organization that's entirely variable on leadership, like giving those ABs, and it'll come back to you. The entire point of the software is to make work more fun. It comes from Google's ex head of HR, Laszlo Bock. He was like, there's so much money being left on the table with basic motions we can take to dramatically increase worker happiness. And I'll give you an example. It'll scroll through your inbox. It'll take meeting notes, and it'll say, "Hey, we noticed there was a meeting last week. You didn't speak up. There was nothing in the minutes about you asserting any of the findings from that project you were working on. Clearly, you put a lot of time into that project. We softly nudge you to speak up in this meeting coming up on Wednesday or Tuesday or whenever that next meeting is. We think it would be good for the company. It would be good for they wouldn't say something like your mental health, but we think it would be good for your standing. It would be good for the company's standing and the overall team's understanding of this project, because you clearly have put a lot of time in." It could tell you, "Hey, this Friday, take that long route there. It'll take an extra 15 minutes, but your boss has already received a nudge that you're going to be a few minutes late. And who was the one that nudged you to do this?" All of these gambits, I would say, like speak up in a meeting, take the long route to work, 15 minutes here, take a extra half an hour at lunch. I think we would all agree that these are very low stakes changes we could all make. Last I heard 2 years ago, Humu, and I think they were, well into hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. On average, they were generating like 15 to 17% productivity increases. If I said, take a longer route to work that lasts 10 minutes and take an extra 15 minutes for lunch, and then the company can have 15% increased productivity, CEOs would take that bet 8 days a week. So I think I've known some people that used it not very well. So when Tracey and I talked about this, I was dying to bring it up and see if anyone had firsthand knowledge with it, because I was very curious to see what it was like for you.
Yeah, if anyone's used it, HUMU, can you add it in the chat? It's something that, it's a little bit of that counterintuitive where a pause actually increases the productivity. I think a lot of folks are thinking we got to work, work, work. Yeah, but the recovery is in the rest. Now, these are lightning panels, so I didn't see any questions in the chat, and I think, Paul, it's time for us to jump into breakout rooms and share what has been your experience implementing AI.
Yeah, really a lot of great stuff to think about, and appreciate Ardavan and Makenzie for you coming on, and for Tracey. Let's give them a round of applause. Hopefully,
yay, Makenzie and Ardavan. Woo!
Write down some of the thoughts that you had during this presentation. And now